We live, ready to go? What's up, everybody? Good morning. Philly with Jon Marks on PHLY. As always, why? Well, it's brought to you and presented by BetParks. Right now in the BetParks app, you can get the Eagles -7.5 over the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. Tells you everything you need to know about Dak Prescott. Well, we know he's not going to be playing now, but yesterday when that initial line came out, it was, yeah, Dak's not going to play, and they know it for at least a couple weeks. We'll get to all that coming up here today in the program. A lot to talk about, including a 76ers return for Paul George. Makes his debut last night in Phoenix. It was a late game. We'll update you on that coming up here with Tyler Zulli in the headlines because he makes his triumphant return to the show off of the paternity list. One Tyler Zulli joins the program with headlines and everything else coming up here. And I don't even know if he's available right now. But as you can see, we're working from home today. So I have my baby grand piano in the background. If you need me to play a song, we can play Name That Tune, or we want to play a game, I can play Name That Tune. And you can say, John, I can name that tune in 5 notes. And then I'll do. So there you go. Yes, beautiful home that I live in. That is up for foreclosure. Anyway, the 76ers lose last night, and it was a close one. Paul George returns, and I'll say this, and Tyler will give some of the deets coming up here in headlines. But I DVR'd it. There was no way I was making it for the duration of that game. I DVR'd it. I watched a lot of the first quarter, and then I watched pretty much the entire second half. I went through the commercials and some of the other downtime in the game. But like at the very least, you can say this team looks much different, and it gives you the vision for what this team's going to look like when Joel Embiid gets back, which is going to be a very good team. And I don't know what's going on with his knee, and honestly, I don't even really want to talk about it a lot because it just gave me we were talking about reflux before I came on the air with my kids having reflux, but like it gives me like reflux when I think about Joel Embiid for a second. But like Paul George, he was rusty last night, didn't look good in the first quarter, kind of got going there as the game went on. And then the fourth quarter, it just felt like they were going to Paul George too much. They were relying on Paul George too much. They got away from Maxey, which they shouldn't have done. I mean, honestly, they should really never get away from Maxey. They shouldn't overuse Joel Embiid in the fourth quarter. They shouldn't overuse Paul George in the fourth quarter. Let Maxey create and let those guys be the dagger. Isn't that why you have a guy that can handle the ball? So you don't have to over. So to me, and it's the first game he's back, like whatever. It's a regular season game. But you look at the team and you're like, all right, now I see how everything works. We had Bob in studio yesterday, Bob Cooney. And it was him or maybe it was Keith Pompey. Anyway, it was Keith. He had said that, like Kelly Oubre right now is really struggling. He's had a terrible start to the season. He's a much different player with Embiid and Paul George. Now teams don't like have to say, oh, well, all right, we're going to have to stop Oubre. We're not going to let him get a shot. And then he's got to create his own shot and he struggles to do that. So he can just fit and slot in, and he's a much better player than, hey, we need you, because they need other guys stepping up, and he's just not doing it right now. The Sixers lose. It was a close one. Kevin Durant hit a layup with I think 24 seconds left, and then Paul George had a shot that didn't go in, and it was done. So headlines coming up here in a second. I want to play this. I saw this early yesterday because it was on Get Up, and it's Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky talking about Nick Sirianni. So Dan Orlovsky, who I like a lot, and I think he does a really good job. And before he became a big star at ESPN, he was living in King of Prussia. His wife's from the area. His wife's a big Eagles fan. His entire wife's family, like they're all huge Eagles fans, just like the rest of us. So like it feels like to me, Dan is like that's kind of his adopted team because of his family. How could you not pay extra attention to the Eagles? How could you not almost root for the Eagles, even though like you're supposed to be a reporter, you're supposed to be an analyst, and that's really not what you're supposed to do. But it's impossible not to root for your hometown team or the team you loved growing up, whatever, because he gets a little bit emotional with the Eagles. So Jalen Hurts last week and the week before that couldn't play. And I'm telling you, I do the exact same thing. So this isn't as much of a criticism of Dan Orlovsky as it's just it's an observation, because he does the same thing that I do. All right. So he's Jalen Hurts. He can't do this. Jalen Hurts can't do that. Jalen Hurts isn't recognizing this. He's not going through his progressions, to where yesterday Jalen Hurts was back to being the greatest Jalen Hurts of all time. And by the way, Jalen's played great, and he should get the praise for sure, because when the team's not playing well or he's not playing well, as with a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, in particular in Philadelphia, we like to key on the coach and the quarterback. More on the coach in a second. But so like Dan, it's very emotional with the Eagles. So same thing with Nick Sirianni. So here's Dan Orlovsky yesterday on Get Up on ESPN. And he's talking about the coach, because we know on Sunday, the Eagles, it felt like the Eagles won in spite of Nick Sirianni. 0 for 3 on 2-point conversions, 0 for 2 on fourth downs. It seemed like every button he pressed missed yesterday. But Tyler, if we have this, Dan Orlovsky on ESPN yesterday talking about Nick Sirianni and everything else. Are we?
Team, I don't trust the coach. I think this is the only legit playoff contender where the coach is a question mark. The coach is a question mark. No coach takes more points off the board than Nick Sirianni. It's unacceptable that they continue, and beyond lucky that Trevor Lawrence throws that interception. Because if Trevor Lawrence leads their team down and they win that football game, I don't think Nick Sirianni's walking in Tuesday morning as the head coach of the football team. That's that bad. The decision-making, the 2-point conversions when they're unnecessary, they're constantly going for it on fourth down. It's almost like I'm talking about Jordan Love. There's a difference between being aggressive and being reckless. And right now, the decision-making is reckless because the team is so talented. The offense has become so explosive. But you got to manage these situations better, because I don't trust them versus Dan Campbell and Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur when it comes to those NFC playoff races.
There's so much there. To get to what he said, let's start with what he said last. He doesn't trust him against Dan Campbell and Matt LaFleur and Sean McVay. Well, I'm not telling you that Nick Sirianni is going to out-scheme Sean McVay, or he's a better offensive coach than Matt LaFleur and whatever. Dan Campbell, I watch a lot of NFL football. I watch pretty much every primetime game. I watch Red Zone. I watch a lot of NFL football. And I know from watching the Lions that Dan Campbell makes the same kind of decisions that Nick Sirianni makes. He goes for it on fourth down. He can be a little bit reckless, if you want to use that word. I think Dan Campbell is a better coach than Nick Sirianni right now, because the Lions have great talent and they're rolling on offense. Dan Campbell has made plenty of decisions calling for replay, not challenging calls, whatever else, to where you watch it and you're like, he's going to cost the team a game with a bad decision. So he's not the best decision maker during a game. Go watch a Lions game. The reason why you're not paying attention to that, or it doesn't feel like that, is they're scoring 40-plus points every week and they're blowing fools out of games. Nick Sirianni, the Eagles almost blew that game, right? So, they almost blew the game. So the finger's going to get pointed at Nick Sirianni. More on that in a second. I don't feel like Nick Sirianni is reckless during games. He went for it. He went for the 2-point conversions. I hate that he went for the 2-point conversions. I hate that he kept chasing the 2-point conversions. I hate when the defense makes a penalty and it gets into the 1-yard line. They'll take an extra point off the board to go for a 2-point conversion. I hate it. I want the point pretty much every time, unless it's 16-0. You need a 2-point conversion. It's 24-0. Go for a 2-point conversion. Don't chase the points, especially in the first half. I hate it, but teams do it. I don't think it's Nick Sirianni's idea. He's not going off the grid too much. Going for it on fourth down. Again, this is something, if you watch the games, a lot of teams do. They go for it on fourth down. A lot. I hate it when it doesn't work. I love it when it works. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked a lot. He's not reckless with it. I don't necessarily like it. It doesn't feel like he manages a game well, like the Jags game. It didn't feel like he managed that game well. In that game, I take the field goal, or I don't go for a 2-point conversion, because their offense couldn't do squat. So take the points. Your defense was leaning on them heavy. If they would have lost that game, I don't think Nick Sirianni gets fired. I'm not telling you, I'm not saying he should be fired after he loses that game. I don't think the Eagles fire him, but that would have been an all-time collapse. And the Kobe Dean bailed him out. Let's be honest. Like, we can say, 0 for 3 and 0 for 2 and whatever else. They almost lost that freaking game. That can't happen. That's on the head coach. But a lot of what Dan Orlovsky's saying is emotion from almost losing that game. The decisions itself, like, all right, I didn't like a lot of them, but he wasn't going off the grid to where you said, like, why, if they have whatever stupid chart they have for going for 2 or when they go for 2 or when they go for it on a 4th down, it's not Nick Sirianni that developed this idea. He's just following a chart. It's like playing blackjack. I don't play blackjack, but I used to play a lot of blackjack. Bet Parks, shout out, by the way. Get up to Parks Casino. Every single time, if you have 16 and the dealer's showing a king, you hit. Even though you know you're probably going to bust, but you have to take the hit for the table. You have to be consistent with what you do in blackjack. You have to. Because unless you're counting into a deck, which nobody's doing out there, then like you just have to be consistent. That's the only way I'll play. And if somebody's on my table that isn't doing that, I'll leave. Or I want them to leave. Because you screw up the mojo, you screw up the deck and everything else. It's kind of what Nick Sirianni's doing in a lot of cases. He's being consistent with going forward on 4th down. He's being consistent with going for the 2-point conversion. I don't like it because analytics, it's not the same in every game. Not every game is going the same way. Like if your defense stinks and you can't get a stop, then maybe you are going for the 2-point conversion because you're trying to make up as many points as possible. Maybe when your defense is playing great, you go for the field goal, right? Like it matters. The analytics, same thing with baseball. Analytics matter, but it can't be the entire story. And it feels like to me, he's got a bad feel for what's going on in a game, when to use the 2-point conversion, when to not go for the 2-point conversion, when to take the field goal, when not to take the field goal. Honestly, like the 4th and inches that they didn't convert, the play call sucked. The idea to go for it on 4th down, I don't think that was a bad call. So I think we're still emotional. I'm guilty of it as well. I didn't think that Nick Sirianni gave the Eagles the best chance to win it in the 4th quarter. I thought he had a bad feel for the game, especially late. As we welcome back, and I think he's here. I was trying to introduce. There he is. He comes off the paternity list as him and his wife Bridget had their first baby, a beautiful boy. What was the stats on the? I didn't see it. What were the stats on the boy?
He's a little guy. He was 5'9" when he was born. He was average like length. He was 19 inches long, but he was a peanut when he came out.
Well, I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9", so we have something in common.
He might be 5'9". I mean, so I'm like 6 foot, but my wife is not particularly tall. Right. So maybe he will be about 5'9". I don't know.
He was also early though, which matters. Which matters a lot because my middle girl was she had to be induced because she wasn't coming out. So they give you like a week or so after the due date. So they get a lot bigger during that time because we had big babies. My wife and I both we had the biggest babies of our friends. And they didn't stay that way because I'm not a big person and my wife's also not a big person. So they are when you look at the picture in school or you look at the soccer picture, they're always sitting on the bottom bench or they're sitting Indian style.
No, I was always the guy standing up in the background. So
not me, Tyler Zulli. Not me.
But all I can say is he's healthy. My wife's healthy. I'm blessed, and he's been pretty much an angel. I mean, I was telling you before the show started, like we have like a 3-hour window in the middle of the night where he's a little bit cranky, but he's been great. I can't complain at all.
Oh, the good old days. I used to walk my oldest daughter around like in a circle around the house when the witching hour. It really is.
Yeah, it was. Hour. It truly is.
It is. Walk her around and singing songs and, like, come on, it's okay. It's like, shh, shh, shh. They'll stop crying for like 30 seconds and you think they're good. Then they start crying again.
It was funny because I was kind of doing a similar thing the other night and my wife came out and I was singing them the Eagles fight song and she just looked at me and was like, oh no, here we go.
But at that point, you have nothing else to do. You've done nursery rhymes, you've some of your favorite songs,
Disney songs, all of it. Yep.
It makes me want to have another one, honestly, Tyler Zulli. It does, but I'm out of bedrooms and I'm too damn old for any of that. All right, so let's do this. And by the way, I'm very happy for you, and I look forward to watching the little guy grow. And it's so cool. I always like when guys a little bit younger than me, when they start having the first kids, it's like the look on your face and how proud you are, and it's like, wow, the moment you become a father, it changes your life, and it's not something you can explain or it's tangible until it happens.
Well, it's funny too, because I had this notion of like, he's going to be born and I'm just going to like, there's just going to be waterworks, right? I'm just going to cry like a baby. And I teared up a little bit, but I just had this like cheesy, like I just met Santa Claus smile on my face. You know what I mean? Like that's all I had was like, and you couldn't see because I had the mask on in the hospital, right? So you could just see my eyes, but you could just see it in my eyes that like, it was just an overjoyous feeling.
A glazed father look. Yes.
And now you can see in my eyes, it's just tired.
Yeah, it's like you could see, well, and this is some of its age. I need to go see Dr. Morgenstern. But yes. All right, so let's get to the headlines, Tyler Zooey. What do we have this morning?
Let's do it. And of course, our headlines are brought to us by the Glad Hair Restoration, because it's not just about restoration, it's about innovation as well. And the breakthrough treatments really do dramatically change your life, because they're going to change your hair, and bald is now optional. So if you want to regain your confidence, visit gladhairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. And we'll start with the Sixers. You brought them up briefly at the beginning of the show. A 118-116 loss to the Phoenix Suns last night. They dropped to 1-5 on the year. It was Paul George's Sixers debut. He played 35 minutes. He finished with 15, 5, and 4. Tyrese Maxey led the way with 32. But in total, it was 6 different Sixers ended up with double digits. Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Yabusele, Kyle Lowry, and Eric Gordon all finished in double figures. It was Kevin Durant leading the way for all scorers. He had 35. The Sixers lose this one. They dropped to 1-5 on the year. The Sixers improved, or the Suns improved to 6-1. Sixers off today. They'll be back at it tomorrow against the Clippers with the new ship in their logo.
Yeah. So Sixers actually led by 9. I think it was with 5 minutes to go. Yeah, they were up 9, 5 minutes to go. They let it slip away. And like you could feel it. You could feel it slipping. And it's like, all right. When I also knew that they were losing the game because I DVR'd it. But yeah, you mentioned Yabusele. He was awesome.
Yep.
Hey, Drummond has not looked good this year.
I agree. I thought Drummond was, especially, I think it was the early portions of the second or late portions of the first. It was like a 4-possession cycle where I think he had 2 turnovers. He got boxed out by Plumlee for a putback or a second chance. I'm a little bit disappointed in his game yesterday.
You know what it is with him? He gets exposed when he's your starter. You think that when you think he can step in more, it's like, oh, well, if Embiid's out, Drummond can play. No, Drummond actually can play only when Embiid's playing. He's the guy that comes in for 12 minutes. He'll get 10 rebounds in 12 minutes. But the more you leave him out there, the more of a liability he really is. So you wonder if now Yabusele will be eating up some of those backup center minutes. I mean, really, I'm interested to see him on the floor with Embiid. He shoots the ball well. He's a great passer. I think he had 6 or 7 assists last night. So, I mean, that's when they signed him coming off the Olympics, you said to yourself, like, all right, I really like his game, but does it translate to the NBA where it's a little bit more physical? We'll see. But it's intriguing.
Well, and they've done a pretty decent job when they go small ball and he kind of plays the pseudo 5.
Yep.
Their defense doesn't terribly lack. I mean, your defense is always going to lack when Joel Embiid's not on the floor. He's your best defender. He's your best player, right? He's everything. He creates your defense. So it's always going to lack a little bit when he's not on the floor. But I think Yabusele's done a good job as playing the small ball 5 so far. He's
got to score. If the shot's not falling and he's on the floor, then you got to get him out of there. But as long as he's shooting and he's playmaking, he is good. So Clippers and then the Lakers. Bronny Jr. Will he play against the 76ers?
No.
Maybe if it's a blowout, he will.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's what you have headed.
I'll be interested. I'll be interested to see the Sixers up close and personal in this new spaceship arena that the Clippers have.
Yeah, I wish I could go see a game out there.
It's probably pretty amazing.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks awesome.
And I love the idea of the wall that they've got, because it's kind of like it's kind of almost like college feel, where it's like you got to be in the student section, right? You get the season ticket holder to be there. I think that's pretty cool.
All right, let's pause for 1 second here, Tyler, because we still have a couple Sixers things to talk about, and then a whole lot more in the headlines. But let's get to our good friends at Glatt Hair Restoration. That's right, established by the late Dr. Paul Glatt, now part of Morgenstern Center, under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Ken Morgenstern. But listen, it's the same approach to care, same expert team, same unmatched Glatt system, same state-of-the-art location, same stellar results. Results. Boom. I'm at home today, so I don't have the wider shot. And I just let me take a look right here. Yeah, look at that. See? And that's up close. Funny story. I get my haircut at Razor Bar. And my barber, John, after maybe a couple of years of him cutting my hair, he heard me talking about it on the air. And he's like, "What is this you're talking about with hair restoration?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean, yeah?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I had hair restoration." He's like, "Hold on, where?" And then I point, I'm like, "Well, I was thin here and I was thin here." And he's like, "Well, where's the hair come from?" I'm like, "Well, the donor strips are in the back." He had no idea that I had hair restoration. He just thought I was blessed with great hair. And so that's somebody literally that's cutting my hair like this that didn't know that I had it done, because they're real results. If you don't want anybody to know that you had it done, and trust me, especially in this industry, like I'll just say a lot of people have reached out to me and have went to Glatt Hair Restoration, and they love the results. Family, friends, colleagues in the media, nationally and locally. That's where you want to go. Glatt Hair can help you during all stages of hair loss, and you'll get a complimentary one-on-one consultation. So this isn't like, hey, come in and we'll try to upsell you or we'll try to sell you on it. It's what the hair team does, and I know them all. Cheryl, Lisa, the whole team. You go in, I don't think you need hair restoration right now. Here's what I'd recommend. Or, yeah, probably the best course of treatment is hair restoration. They have something for all stages of hair loss. Call them right now, 610-980-4000, 610-980-4000, or Glatt Hair, G-L-A-T, hair, MCTR.com. All right, BetParks app. Let's talk about it. Eagles 7.5-point favorites. I threw this out last night. I didn't see what people were saying on Twitter. But like, if you want to bet the Eagles this week, do you take it now or do you wait to see what the line does? I think the line's going to come down by a point. It may be 6.5 points by kickoff. Do people start putting some smart money in on the Cowboys, thinking like, hey, Cowboys have stunk. Eagles are going to come in riding high. Maybe this is one of these letdown games. I don't know. But I would wait and see. Eagles minus 7.5 points right now against the Cowboys on Sunday. You can get it on the one and only sportsbook app I would ever recommend, BetParks, in the BetParks Sportsbook app, and online casino. Online casino. When you're watching the games, maybe you just like blackjack, roulette, craps, all live dealer. So there's a live dealer. You're just doing it on your phone. All right. So whether you're doing that or you're watching the games, BetParks online casino and sports app. BetParks.com for details. You must be 21 and in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Tyler, back on the Sixers. Nothing new on Joel Embiid on two fronts. Nothing on he's been scrimmaging. So it's interesting that Shams and national guys are getting information. So that's probably agent driven, because this entire thing feels like it's agent driven, and the Sixers are afraid of Joel Embiid. But all indicators are that he's getting closer to playing, but that doesn't mean the knee is okay. He's going to have problems with that left knee for the rest of his career. He's going to be managing that left knee for the rest of his career. The sooner we realize that, and not even realize it, the sooner that we actually say, hey, listen, just get it in your head that this is always going to be something with Joel Embiid, I think the better. Because whatever's happened down there in training camp, now in the beginning of the regular season, the lack of information, the lack of transparency, which now a lot of people I see are saying that's coming from the Embiid camp. I can't live like this, dude. I can't live with what do you mean he's not starting the season? What do you mean he's not playing? When's he coming back? Let's just be transparent about the whole thing. All right?
It's been strange for sure. I think that the lack of information is odd. I would say that, I think everybody's nerves would be quelled if they just said, hey, timeline's 4 to 6 weeks. It's worse than we feared. Because those words they'll never say, right? It's worse than we feared. No team is ever going to use that phrase or those type of words. But if you said, hey, timeline's 4 to 6 weeks, we'll see, we'll reevaluate in 3, but it's likely probably going to be closer to a month or whatever the case may be. I think everybody would go, "Oh, he's hurt." And then nothing you could do. He's hurt. Something got re-aggravated, or it worsened in the Olympics, or it worsened in training camp, or whatever the case may be. I think everybody would be more at ease if you just said, "Here's the situation, and here's what we're expecting. Here's what's an expected ballpark timeline."
It's interesting because normally teams don't like to give timelines, or like, you know what I mean? Sometimes they give a timeline because it's like, yeah, this is what it's going to be. But then there's other times where teams don't want to give a timeline because they don't want to disappoint. In this case, it probably is right to give the fans like, hey, here's about what we're looking at. Because guess what? If he's ready to come back a week before that, he can come back a week before that.
Sure.
They are so worried, and it feels like Embiid is so worried about the reaction to him being injured. Dude, you're 7'2" and you have bad knees. Instead of pretending you're going to be okay, let's just be honest about everything. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay. Joel Embiid, this whole thing that Joel Embiid doesn't want to play is BS. Joel Embiid wants to play. Joel Embiid's body doesn't allow him to play. It doesn't allow him to play. Could he be in better shape? Could he have taken the post-Olympics a little bit more serious or kept in better shape? I mean, I don't know. Sure. I don't care. This guy's going to be injured. Let's all get on the same page here so we can all pull in the same direction instead of everybody being all over the place. It's just so frustrating.
We all played under the guise that it was going to probably be 60, 65 games for Joel Embiid. Yeah. For most regular seasons at this point. And I think all of us collectively would be totally fine with it, assuming that he's healthy come playoff time, right? If it's a week here, if it's a game here, if it's a load management there, I think we're all kind of okay with it. I don't care about individual awards. I never did, but now that he's got his MVP, I really don't care about them. I think that argument, that type of conversation is just, it's dead at this point. And that's fine, because to me, the greater need is to get this team out of the second round. And it's to get this team out of the second round with Joel Embiid being relatively healthy come playoff time. And so if he's going to miss 12, 18, 25 games in the regular season, but he's healthy in the first and second round of the postseason, that's all I care about at this point.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck him being high. I mean, can we keep it real? Can we keep it real?
I get it.
We need him to be the healthiest he can possibly be once the playoffs start.
That's probably more fair.
Right. And I know that's what everybody means, but you also have to keep that in mind. He's not going to be freaking healthy in the playoffs. He's never going to be healthy. You're going to have to if you want him as a player, you need him to be able to, you need him, and you need to manage the injuries. Here's the issue I'm now having with Joel Embiid. He didn't talk to the media for 28 days. One of the last times he talked to the media, he talked about not playing back. He's never going to play back-to-backs in his career again. That he's taking his time coming back, which, it's just bad messaging. To say I'm not coming back, I'm not going to play back-to-backs, and then you don't talk to the media for a month, and you're not there to start the regular season, and then you're totally silent. The Sixers literally had to sit up there. Nick Nurse had to sit up there and get questioned and follow up to where more or less he probably wants to say, hey, we need to get Joel Embiid up here because he needs to talk, because he knows what's going on behind the scenes. He knows that the Embiid camp is the one that's dictating everything that's going on. Honest to God, Tyler, the Sixers are so powerless against this guy. He's an NBA superstar that's a former MVP who is very sensitive to the injury stuff, and very sensitive to what people are saying about him, and very sensitive to what is said on social media. So you know what he does? He hides from it. So no one can say anything. So they killed the Sixers. I was killing the 76ers last week. Called him a clown show. I put the clown emoji. Now this is a donkey show because of Joel Embiid. Oh, by the way, who shoved the reporter in the locker room because Marcus says something stupid in an article because he's trying to be too smart, and he's trying to make a point. Nobody cares. We just want Joel Embiid to play. We want to know what the hell's going on. So damn it, Joel, stop it. Stop it.
I think that, this is, there's a level of gamesmanship to injuries. It exists everywhere. I think the NHL is the biggest perpetrator of it, right? The NHL just says upper body, lower body, and that's it. That's what you get, and if it's upper body, we've kind of come to conclude that it means neck up, and lower body's everything else. But they're pretty gamesmanshipy with that. And to go back to your point about the, if he comes back a week early, it's not like it's the IL
it doesn't matter
in baseball. It's not like it's the IR in the NFL, where like you have a set timeline that you can't come back. If you get placed on the 4-week IR, you can't. Your practice window
come back
for 4 weeks. You get placed on the 10-day IL, you can't come back. It might be retroactive, and it might not actually be 10 days, but you can't come back prior to that set day. If Embiid comes back a couple days or a week early, that's wonderful. Under the assumption that he is ready to play, and like you said, it's probably more along the lines of healthy enough to be able to compete. Maybe it's not healthy 100%. Like I'm not playing a game today. My body is well, but I think that in this kind of context, the secrecy is odd, but I also think that he does get some leeway in the fact that he is all of those things that you mentioned: former MVP, the best player on the team, the highest paid player on the team. It's an odd dynamic to try to find a balancing act.
It's what you have to deal with a lot of superstars in sports. Period. I know we know that. I just he comes back and plays, and we don't worry about this. You know why? This will be a good team. This could be a good team. Get him back. Paul George gets back in the swing of things. All right, what else do we have here? What else is in headlines there, Tyler?
Yeah, so let's get to we'll stay local just to really quickly. Flyers back at it tonight against Carolina Hurricanes. They've won 8 of their first 10. Carolina has. The Flyers are 4-7-1. Obviously, the conversation for the Flyers is going to revolve around Sam Harrison and the injury that he sustained this weekend, and what the goaltender situation is going to be in the short term and potentially in the long term. Obviously, I would assume that Kolosov gets the start tonight for the Flyers, but we'll keep you updated on the injury report from Sam Harrison, because he to me looked like the only NHL goaltender that they've
good
this year. Yeah. I don't know if he's a long-term starter, but I think he would. I mean, compared to Fedotov, especially.
Yeah, you can't put him. You can't have him in there. I don't even know his name. Like, the name's not with muscle memory. I have to write it down, or I have to type it so I can remember it. He's not an NHL goalie. This team will be effed if he has to play more than once. So he shouldn't even be on this roster.
Well, that's what I'm assuming Kolosov gets the start tonight, but we'll keep an eye on things. But they drop the puck at 7:00 tonight. Last night, the NFL season wrapped up. Chiefs beat the Bucs 30-24 in overtime. Patrick Mahomes was really, really good. He ended up 34 for 44, just shy of 300 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, Kareem Hunt 100 yards rushing, and a score. DeAndre Hopkins scored twice, caught 8 passes for 86 yards in his debut with the Kansas City Chiefs. And an interesting end to the game, John. Now, I don't know if you're in the camp of you brought up take the point, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. The Bucs score late with about 27 seconds left to make it a 24-23 game. Todd Bowles elects to kick the extra point to tie the game, send it to OT. The Chiefs end up winning. The conversation was, as the underdog, as the team that's not undefeated like the Chiefs were, do you go for 2, and especially on the road, do you go for 2 and try to win the game in that moment? So I'm curious your thoughts on that situation.
Because you brought it up. You're right. They're on the road. On the road, at least the book would say, no, you go for it. But they had taken first, and it took them 3 times to get there. They were at the 1-yard line. It took them 3 times to get in on that drive to get the touchdown. I would have taken the extra point and played for overtime, because at least in overtime you feel like that you're going to get the ball back. The problem was they didn't get the ball back. The Chiefs went down and they scored a touchdown on the first drive. The game was over. I wouldn't have. I would have kicked the extra point. The problem is 27 seconds left, and we were actually trying to look at this before we started the show. 27 seconds left. If the Chiefs get the ball at the 30-yard line or the 25-yard line, Pat Mahomes essentially needs 2 completions or 2 chunk plays. Every kicker in the NFL right now, for the most part, can hit 60-yard field goals. So if you can get the ball to the 43-yard line, that's 2 plays for the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. Right. I'm not giving the ball back to Pat Mahomes right there, at all. So no, I thought they made the right move.
By the way, yes, Philly Sports Pride, my bad. Home debut last night for DeAndre Hopkins. He made his debut with the Chiefs last week. No, I get it. It's a conversation. It's kind of like the Nick Sirianni stuff you were talking about earlier. It's like, you brought up you love it when it works and you love it when you don't. It's kind of like I love it when I win the lottery and I hate it when I don't. I haven't won the lottery yet, but I'll love it the day that I do. You know what I mean? So it's one of those never ending conversations. You're the road dog. Do you take the points and go to OT? And your offense has been pretty good this year, but it's the Chiefs, it's Mahomes in overtime, it's Andy Reid in overtime. Are you taking the chance? It's a balancing act where you're never going to get the right answer until you make the right call. If Todd Bowles goes for 2 and they come up short and they lose 24-23, Bucs fans are going to go, why didn't you send it to OT? Yeah. If he goes for 2 and they convert, they're going to go, oh my God, it's a genius move. Great work, Todd Bowles. You ended up winning the game. You broke the Chiefs, undefeated season. Great job. So it's a great call when you get it right.
Yeah, the Chiefs also scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So you could argue that the momentum was in the Chiefs' favor, or you can say like, hey, but the Bucs answered. So they have the momentum going in the overtime. Regardless, they lost the game. But yeah, it was an interesting choice down there not to go for 2. I would have done the same thing.
One final note for you. The qualifying offers across Major League Baseball were extended yesterday. 13 players in total received a qualifying offer, which for those that may not know what the QO is, it is a 1-year qualifying offer for just over $21 million. And a player can accept it, and they just automatically, they get a 1-year deal worth $21 million. If the player does not accept it, they still can negotiate with their team. But if they don't accept it and sign somewhere else, then the team that offered the qualifying offer will get a draft pick compensation in exchange. So just a couple of the big names that were offered qualifying offers yesterday. No surprise with a couple of these. Juan Soto, Corbin Burns, Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander. A couple surprises. Nick Pivetta was offered the qualifying offer. So was Nick Martinez from the Reds. But in total, 13 players yesterday were offered the qualifying offer. And that at least will give their current or maybe their former teams some draft pick compensation should they lose them in free agency.
Jeff Hoffman was not.
He was not.
Estevez could not be because he was traded for late in the season, which
Correct.
makes him the Phillies can't do it. Who else? There was one other name for the Phillies that wasn't offered. Hoffman's the big name because there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, you cannot let him walk. We'll see.
Yeah,
he's going to make some money.
Yeah, he's going to get paid, and I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to get paid like a closer too. Oh yeah. And here's the thing. I would love to keep Jeff Hoffman. I think Jeff Hoffman deserves a pretty substantial contract extension. I would never, ever offer a $21 million qualifying offer to a relief pitcher.
Agreed.
Ever. Let me rephrase that. If it's a closer and it's if the only way to keep Emmanuel Clase in your organization for another year is a qualifying offer, I would consider it. But it has to be a high profile closer to even think about it.
Well, I think that's why Nick Pivetta gets the qualifying offer because they don't want to give him a contract extension. They want to see what he does this year because the arm's electric. And he's actually been pretty good up in Boston. That was a good trade for them. But they don't want to give him $100 million. If he hits the open market, someone will offer him something.
Sure.
So at least at the very least, they get a draft pick.
Well, I mean, you think about it, the money with the market was kind of the mid-tier market was kind of already set for pitching. Michael Wacha's already re-signed in Kansas City. I think it was a 3-year deal worth almost $50 million. I think it might have been maybe even $51 million for Michael Wacha, who's good. He's good. Had a really nice year this year for Kansas City. But you're talking about a guy who's going to make $17 million. If $16 and $17 million a year is the going rate for Michael Wacha, what's the going rate for the guys above him?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of starting pitching out there this offseason. We'll have to get Jim Salisbury on at some point soon too, because the Juan Soto thing, everybody's Juan Soto, and I get it. We want to have fun with everything, and the Phillies should sign him. The Phillies should sign him. I guess part of me is just too realistic now that I don't work in sports radio. Juan Soto's not coming to Philadelphia. I would be floored if Juan Soto was a Philly this year.
Everybody with a brain would say Juan Soto makes every team in baseball better, right? He's one of the 6 best players in the game. So they're going to make a push. They're going to offer him a contract. I don't know if it's going to be substantial enough to either be monetarily enough or years-wise enough or whatever the case may be. I've been saying with Jamie and Renee for a while now, I think he's staying in New York. I don't necessarily mean that means he's staying with the Yankees.
Right.
But I think that the two teams I would see him going to are back to the Yankees or to the Mets.
They're not getting in a bidding war with the Mets and the Yankees.
Steve Cohen's going to throw $1 billion at him.
Dave Dombrowski at his press conference at the end of the year, and I don't think this was gamesmanship because Dave's honest a lot when he wants to be honest. He said they don't need any more stars. They're not bringing Juan Soto in. If Juan Soto was available and it's like, hey, he's only $40 million a year or 40, like you get back involved in the conversation. All the stuff that's being thrown out right now, Bob Nightingale and Heyman and some of these other guys, they're known to peddle information for Scott Boras. They're known to put stuff out there. I'm not saying they knowingly put stuff out there, but they put stuff out there. Scott Boras is trying to drive a market. Juan Soto, the game just ended, and he was talking about he'll play for every team in Major League Baseball. Scott Boras' client, a lot of nonsense in the media. The Phillies aren't signing Juan Soto.
Do it.
Right?
You said you want to play for every team. Go play for Cleveland.
Yeah, nonsense.
Go sign with the Pirates. Go ahead. Do it.
If the Pirates offer him $1 billion, guess what? He's playing for the Pirates. He's going to the highest bidder.
I would take that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. All right, there's the headlines. Thank you very much, Tyler. Let's get to and talk about our good friends over at TrueMark Financial. Man, I'm a customer now. This is easy. Talk about TrueMark. All right, business checking set up. Bing, bang, boom. Went in to the Trooper Road Audubon. Just walked right in the door. I was just a regular schmo. Like, hey, I have a small business. Need business checking. Need to open it up. Had some problems getting some of the documentation because the IRS is terrible and the state is worse. And well, actually, it's the other way. The IRS is worse. The state's terrible. But so anyway, I went in. They're like, all right, let's see what we can do. We figured it out. We got the business checking account opened up. Got the debit card, got the app set up, like good to go. And they were awesome. It's not like when you go into, and I've done plenty of banking with other banks, and you go in and the people are nice enough, but you never feel like that they really care. This is different at TrueMark. Donna, Mary Ellen, they've been at the branch. They've worked together 16 years at this branch. And when you walk in, you can feel the warmth and the relationship. You can. That's TrueMark Financial. They're amazing. And if you're in the market for a new home or maybe an investment property right now, there's a ton of inventory that's getting on the market. And TrueMark Financial can help you get ready for it, right? You can talk to one of their experts who can give you some guidance on how much you can borrow, your loan options and terms, all of that and more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more info, visit TrueMark.com/PHLY. ITY. There you go. All right. Talk about Rite Aid for a second. Yeah. Tyler's been off on paternity for a week and a half here. And probably the last time I talked about Rite Aid, I was talking about picking up prescriptions and picking up antibiotics. Well, so 4 of 5 of us were on antibiotics. And then number 5, all 5 of us, 4 strep throat, 1 sinus infection. My middle girl had strep throat, but the amoxicillin didn't kick it because she's got strep throat like 3 days after she's off the antibiotic. Guess where I am? The Royersford Rite Aid, picking up a stronger version of the antibiotic. And listen, you go to Rite Aid as much as I do, you start to look around and you're like, all right, like, oh, that's a good deal. That's a good deal right there. Oh, we need some more children's Motrin. Oh, tissues. Everything you need and more is right there at Rite Aid. And they're making it convenient for you too, right? Like, I don't just walk in and say, hey, I need this prescription filled, or hey, I need this. Nope. I have a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid. I refill my prescriptions, personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications. You can enroll in automatic courtesy refills. I have this for my prescriptions, and you can kind of bundle everything together. So instead of coming 5, 6, 7 times a month for all our monthly medications, we sign up and we pick them up in one visit. Just ask your local Rite Aid pharmacist to get started. Everything. RiteAid.com. Check it out. Everything you need, including over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply. All right. There you go. All right. So we pretty much talked about everything but the Jason Kelce stuff. Did you see the apology last night? Do we have the apology? Don't play it yet. But so, and by the way, it happens at the Penn State game. I could do your Penn State podcast with you with you this week after that game, Tyler. But so he's at the Ohio State game, Penn State game. He announced that he was going to be at the game. So like there was a buildup. People, obviously, he's very popular, looking for him. We know what happened with the cell phone spike or whatever. I thought innocuously tweeted out that like, hey, he can't be doing that. He's like more famous now than he's ever been. And he needs to hire security to deal with idiots like that. The New York Post picked it up and ran the story that I was being critical of Jason Kelce in saying that. Like, all right, I was saying he shouldn't spike the phone, and he shouldn't have spiked the phone, but I didn't feel bad for the loser who was saying stuff to him. And I don't think Jason should have to grovel because he did it. But like, he's too big of a star, and he's an adult, and he has a family. He's got to have, if he's going to be that famous and his brother's going to date Taylor Swift and maybe marry Taylor Swift, he's got to be smarter about what he's doing. And that's what I put out there. Tyler, when I tell you that I was getting DMs from people all over the world telling me to shut the F up. I'm like, huh? Because of a headline? Like I met a lot of Swifties and a lot of Kelce fans in DMs, and because I don't look at my mentions on Twitter, that's for sure. But I tweeted it out, and a bunch of next thing you know, I got like 3 million impressions on the freaking tweet. I have people are emailing me or messaging me asking for interview requests, and I'm like, Jesus, what have we done here? But so last night, Monday Night Countdown starts, and they didn't waste any time. I didn't know how they were going to address it. I figured they would. I didn't know how they were going to address it. They addressed it from the top of the show. Here's Jason Kelce last night on ESPN addressing his whole situation at the Penn State game.
You know, listen, I think everybody's seen on social media everything that took place this week. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm not happy with anything that took place. I'm not proud of it. And, you know, in a heated moment, I chose to greet hate with hate. And I just don't think that that's a productive thing. I really don't. I don't think that, it leads to discourse, and it's the right way to go about things. And in that moment, I fell down to a level that I shouldn't have. So I think the bottom line is, I want to live my life. I try to live my life by the golden rule. That's what I've always been taught. I try to treat people with common decency and respect, and I'm going to keep doing that moving forward. Even though I fell short this week.
Yeah, he and that was everything you'd expect about Jason Kelce. There wasn't some prepared statement that he read from and then they moved on. It was at the beginning of the show, which I thought was odd, but you can tell that was probably him saying, hey, listen, I need to say this and move on from it. Because waiting a segment or two and then that building up, he's not going to be able to focus on everything else he's talking about. And you could tell he was emotional about it. And I don't think he shouldn't be groveling to anybody. I more or less I just get a little bit worried about him in that his fame has taken him to this next level. This isn't Jason Kelce from 3 years ago, or Jason Kelce even after winning the Super Bowl when he became a household name. This is Jason Kelce who's become a much bigger star than whenever he played. He's all over the place. So he shouldn't have to grovel about this. Screw that dude that was up and saying stuff and pushed him and things like screw him. But he does realize that he can't be put in the situation where he has an idiot doing stuff like that to him. And hopefully that's what he changes going forward, because Jason's a good dude. He really, really is. Jason's a great dude. And he doesn't need people coming up to him and acting like that and yelling at him and talking about his brother and all that other stuff. But guess what? It's probably going to keep happening. That's where you need a couple of guys with you that are on the periphery, that are your buddies, that can walk that guy away real quick. And Jason, just keep walking. Don't worry about it. So hopefully that's what they do going forward.
I give Jason Kelce credit for, coming on that show and taking a high road and being a bigger man and issuing that statement. But quite frankly, I don't think he needed to. I think that he was this fan was so far out of line in the things that he said and the things that he did. I can respect Kelce for being a bigger man, but it was so far out of line to use a homophobic slur, to talk about his brother, to talk about his, his brother.
Could he have punched him then?
Girlfriend.
Could he have punched him then?
I mean, no, I don't. I think that's a different. You're then probably then he is going to issue an apology, and I get it. I think that the fact that this kid, I don't know if it was a kid, I don't know who it was. I don't know. Did they identify the guy yet? I don't know who.
I didn't see it. He better hope they don't identify him.
The fact that this person felt that they could, bleep around and not have to worry about the find out portion of it. When you, like I said, when you used a homophobic slur, when you talk about somebody's family member, when you talk about somebody's family member's significant other, there is like a find out portion of this. And then for Jason Kelce to feel like he has to be the one that issues an apology. That's not fair on him.
So he wasn't apologizing to the dude because there should be no apology to the dude. He's lucky someone didn't mash his face. But I mean, honestly, is it really that hard to walk away from some loser that's saying stuff? You just keep walking. You just keep walking.
It's easier said than done. I
agree. I agree. But he's apologizing for not continuing the walk and escalating the situation. Because guess what, Tyler? If this becomes a physical confrontation, then that's a problem. Right? I think everybody can appreciate what he did because that guy's a loser that did that to him. And he's lucky Jason didn't punch him in the face. And if Jason would have punched him in the face, I would have felt bad for Jason because he was reacting in a human situation. Jason showed that he was human. I don't blame Jason Kelce for anything that he did on Saturday. I don't. He should have to apologize for the situation. He apologized for it. I mean, sometimes you got to just keep walking. And I guarantee you this, if that happens again, he's not going to smash this guy's phone down. He's not. I mean, he needs to change a couple of different things to protect himself from the public. There was Margate Karen in May, and that woman was totally freaking out of line. And she got into a shouting match with Kylie. And the Kelce's didn't do anything wrong. This woman came up and was banging on the car, wanting a picture of them while they were waiting in the car. But it just goes to show you what he was able to do before, walking around Sea Isle, he may not be able to do anymore because he's that big of a star. So if people are gonna mess with you, you can't be mixing it up with them. You just can't. You can't. So
I think in totality, he smashed a phone. He smashed a phone for somebody doing something egregious. And I think that I go back to what I said at the beginning. It's appreciated, I think, as looking at it from him being, the bigger human and stepping up and saying, hey, these are my words and I'm going to address this. There's kudos and credit to him for that. You have to allow people to live their lives, to be themselves, to walk out. And I get it. Like he's a public figure. He's not me and you. Right? Like we don't walk down the street.
Right. You can't be smashing people's phones. I mean, listen, I'm 10 years older than Jason. You can't be smashing phones. He's got to grow up a little bit. Like, I don't know how much he was drinking. He was carrying a 12-pack. So I don't know how much he was drinking. And if you've had a couple beers and some loser starts yelling stuff at you, it becomes a little bit easier to lose it. I mean, he did repeat the F word back 3 times. He didn't bring it up. What if the guy used the N word? Would he been repeating the N word back 3 times? He can't get away with doing that. So repeating it back, that's getting glossed over because he didn't bring it up in the first place. He doesn't need to do it. He's got to control himself a little bit more. And that's what he's going to do going forward. This is not criticism of Jason Kelce, but I can also keep it real. He's got to move on from that guy. This was something that it's human. It happened. He doesn't need to apologize for it. I just hope this stuff doesn't continue. Because he doesn't need this. He's too good of a dude. He's too much of a star. He doesn't need to be fighting with people in parking lots because they use a gay slur towards Jason Kelce. The guy's an idiot. And by the way, this was a Penn State fan, I think. If his name does get out there, guess what? This dude's just screwed himself big time. Because anytime he's looking for a job, guess what employers do? They Google the name. And they see, let me see what the internet says about this guy. Oh, he yelled the F word at Jason Kelce. Oh, he was that guy. He ain't getting a job, man. So hopefully he is exposed and he has to deal with it.
And again, I understand that your point is it's different from me and you versus a guy of Jason Kelce's
But it's
standard.
not. But it's
but
not. But it's not. You're missing my point. I'd be embarrassed if I did that. I'd be embarrassed if you did that. You don't act like that. You don't act like that.
I disagree in that sentiment, because if somebody if there's somebody in my life who is a member of the LGBT community is getting targeted like that or using those words, I'm standing up for them. I get
By
it.
Smashing a phone?
If I think if it's a necessity, then possibly.
But it wasn't a necessity. The guy, he didn't start hitting you with the phone. You had to grab it and smash it like it was your last defense to something that was like, listen, I honestly, bro, like I don't need to go back and forth on this because you have your point of view and I think it's very valid. I just think Jason Kelce needs to be the bigger man. And in that moment, and he apologized for it, in that moment, he probably would do something different next time. And like, I'm not even going to criticize him for it. Again, F that guy. But he can't, like, this is going to be something that continues to happen. So let me ask you, Tyler, and the next time someone runs up and says, hey, Jason, your brother's an F word and he's this and he's that. So are you still running up to defend him because he's saying stuff about the LGBT community, or are you walking away this time?
No, I think that, wait, are you asking me if it's the
can he continue to act like this is what I'm saying. Can he continue to act like this if people run up and they say stuff about his brother?
I mean,
the answer is no.
I don't know. I don't think it's definitively just no. I think that you use a word like that, you come into somebody's face like that, like you attack somebody like that and attack their family like that. There's a defense mechanism that's going to kick in.
Yeah, no, we saw it. The reaction was total. The reaction from Jason Kelce, I honestly have no problem with, but it's just something that it can't be a common reaction. Like, and he knows that. We're not going to talk about this anymore because he's not going to do this. But like his post-playing career, he's on Winnebago's, he's shotgunning beers, he's out in the crowd. No one gives him a problem. Jason's great with people. When he's out, he's the best guy ever. The problem is when he's out there with people that aren't the best guy ever, because there's a lot of them out there. What else do we have before we get out of here? Eagles, Cowboys. Dak Prescott is injured, so he is not going to be starting. Cooper Rush starting for the Cowboys on Sunday. This is lining up for the Eagles. They get a win against the Cowboys. They're 7-2. Following week, it's a Thursday night. Can you imagine what this game is going to be like on Thursday night? Got to beat the Cowboys first, but then the following week, I think it's at Lincoln Financial Field, isn't it? Against the Commanders, but it's a Thursday night game.
Yeah, yes, it is at home.
It's at the Link. So Cowboys 4:25 Sunday. Cooper Rush starting. CeeDee Lamb shoulder injury. I don't know if he's going to play this week. And then you have the short week home against the Commanders. That's going to be for the division. Eagles could be 7-2. The Commanders. Who do the Commanders have this week?
They are playing the. Give me 1 second.
Steelers at home.
Steelers at home. So difficult. Not as difficult of a game as it was a couple of weeks ago. Because the Steelers were playing some really good, but the Steelers defense is really good.
Yeah, Russell Wilson has, and by the way, shout out to the diehards out there. I appreciate it. Shout out to the diehards. The
Steelers haven't lost in 3 games. The Commanders had played really good football. Now they get aided a little bit by the Hail Mary the other day.
Fortunate to win that game.
You won the game, right? You know what I mean? Like
closer game against the Giants than it probably should be, but still they got it done. Steelers have found a formula, and I really think this is what Tomlin is best case scenario for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers is Russell Wilson plays mistake-free football. He makes deep throws, and they're able to run the ball effectively because their defense is very, very good.
Really
Steelers are a good team. They're not good enough to win a Super Bowl based on the quarterback play. At least right now, it doesn't look like that. But
they found a formula to success that's extended, that has kind of extended their season, because we looked at it and went, Wilson, Fields, who's the starter? Who actually gives them a better chance to win? Wilson gets hurt, and then Fields plays decently, but not good enough to keep the job. Wilson comes back. We're talking about it. They're 4-2, and they're changing their quarterback. They found a model to success. Najee Harris is running the ball much better this season. Jalen Warren's been solid, and their defense is extremely impressive.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. They can on any given week they can beat anybody, including the Eagles. So that's going to be a tough game. I'll be curious to see how they defend Jalen Daniels, and then it's Eagles. So Eagles Commanders, which will be an awesome game, and then they travel. They have that mini bye. We'll be talking about the mini bye for a long time. Like, oh, the Eagles have a mini bye, 10 days off, and then they're at the Rams, followed by, and that's a Sunday night game, followed by, so they have to travel all the way across country. And then they have on Sunday at the Ravens. So Cowboys this week, Thursday Night Football Commanders, at the Rams Sunday Night Football, and then a huge game against the Ravens that following Sunday.
So one of two things are going to happen in those two games. The Eagles are going to inexplicably lose to the Rams and then go to Baltimore and beat the Ravens, or they're going to beat the Rams and get absolutely obliterated by Baltimore the following week.
Or they lose to the Rams and lose to the Ravens. And that becomes the, oh my goodness, is this season starting to fall apart? And then they beat the Panthers, and then they play the Steelers, which will be a really interesting game.
The Rams stink, right? I think we can agree on that. The Rams are not a very good football team.
I don't know, man. Sean McVay always seems to scheme the hell out of Eagles defenses.
I mean, Kyron Williams has been awesome all year. And obviously with Puka getting healthy and it doesn't seem like they're looking to trade Cooper Kupp at this time. They have talent. I just don't think they're a very particularly good football team. I think they did win this past weekend, though. I think they beat the
in overtime. Yeah.
Yeah. They beat the Seahawks in overtime, and they have won 3 in a row. But I look at them, even though they've won 3 in a row, and I just don't feel like they're that good.
I just think they're inconsistent depending on the week. But yeah, they've won 3 straight. So we'll see where they are right there. So this is they're in the gauntlet, Tyler Zulli. Remember the gauntlet from last year? This is the Eagles gauntlet this year.
Yeah, it's a 17-game NFL schedule, and you don't have any buys to break it up anymore.
Nope, you don't. All right, well, that'll be fun going forward right here. All right, well, shout out to everybody out there. If you're watching live on YouTube, we appreciate you. The Mad Chatters up every morning with us, live at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, we appreciate you. Tyler gets it up every morning, a little bit after 9 o'clock, so you can listen at your pleasure. Just search Philly with Jon Marks wherever you get your podcast. Roku TV, if you have a Roku like me down in the basement, you can watch it on there. And subscribe. That's right, subscribe to PHLY on YouTube. And
does your grand piano get Roku TV over there?
Does not, but if you want me to play
built-in screen,
I do play Piano Man by Billy Joel on demand. So if people want to hear it, I can get down, and I can't play the harmonica though. It's the one part of the song that I can't do. Follow me on socials at Jon Marks Media, JONMARKS Media, at Jon Marks Media. And what else do we have here? Oh, I wanted to mention this right here because it was another excellent one this morning with from our own PHLY Daily. Rich Hoffman Jr. works really hard every day, doing all the work for you. We're doing the work for you. We're not even charging you. It gets delivered free to your inbox. PHLY Daily gives you everything you need to know from Philly sports for the day and the night before. You can get everything you need to know as a Philly sports fan, and it's free. You can subscribe at allphly.com. And there you go. Is today the last day for the special, or is that now over? Maybe I shouldn't even have brought it up.
I think I do believe it was yesterday. I'll double check. But I do believe
I think you're right. I think you're right. All right. To be a diehard. Be a diehard.
Well, no, you could still be a diehard.
You should be a diehard anyway. Just telling you.
Unfortunately, the discount is just not applicable anymore.
It's not, but you should still be a diehard. Great stuff from Kyle. He was up late last night breaking down the 76ers loss and all that jazz. All right, Flyers tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow. More Eagle stuff as well. Tyler, are you sharing? Are you been social mediaing the baby? Have you been like doing updates and things like that? No,
a little bit on Instagram, but I always say my Instagram's kind of my account. You know what I mean? Like you can follow me on Twitter. That's my public conversation. The Instagram's a little more private for me. But I've always kind of been a big proponent of like. I kind of keep my family and my personal life just on the Instagram because like I asked for a public life when we do this, right? They did not, right? So most of the time when I talk about my family, I say like my wife, my mom, my brother. I don't use names for a reason, because they didn't ask for a public life, right?
Right.
So I'll probably update a little bit, but most of it's going on my Instagram, which is my kind of
which is not available to the public. So screw all you people out there.
No, it's not that, but you get what I'm saying, right?
I do. Absolutely. No, like that's kind of like Facebook for a lot of people. That's kind of like they're not accepting everybody.
Right.
That's their thing right there. And I deleted Facebook years ago. So anyway, flip over to Ant. He's live right now on PHLY. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.